So hello, my name is Will Robertson. I'm a upper school science teacher at Stone Ridge. I teach physics and bioorganic chemistry. And last week, one of the lessons that we did was a catalyst lab, or an enzyme lab using an enzyme called catalase. And I basically had to kind of set up everything at home and do it in front of them. And I used Google Meet to kind of show them. I would hold up the tubes to the camera and be like, okay, what do you see happening now? And kids would say, oh, oh, it's bubbling, or oh, it's not bubbling. And then we'd have a conversation about, okay, what does that mean? How did this affect the catalyst, the activity of the catalyst? And it was actually pretty fun. And they got a lot out of it, and they said that they really enjoyed they missed the hands-on aspect of things. And so being able to do a lab, even though they're not actually doing it, being able to just watch it, they're kind of like back in that simulated mode of, oh, I'm doing a lab right now. So I've also been using tools, Show Me, to make videos. And I also make an extensive use of the online whiteboard called Explain Everything. That's actually been really, really helpful. And I can record both my talks and the things that I'm writing on the whiteboard. So for me, those tools have been really useful. And I'm sort of looking at very innovative ways to be more hands-on in a virtual way. So stay tuned for more of that.
Hi, my name is Renee Carlin, and I teach 7th grade social studies. So a lesson that I used during our virtual learning was an analysis of Washington's first presidency. My students are studying U.S. history, and we are launching into the beginning of the early republic. So the way I used my virtual learning tools was to provide students with the opportunity to analyze material. So they had that opportunity first by using text. And so they did use their traditional textbook at home, which all of my students have a copy of. But then I was able to add to that by providing them with some video clips from different documentaries about George Washington's presidency, from a variety of sources, including from the Mount Vernon website. And so they learned about Washington's presidency from a variety of different perspectives. They also heard parts of Washington's farewell address when he was leaving his term. And then they participated in analyzing Washington's presidency through a Padlet. So a Padlet is like a virtual bulletin board, and they were able to offer different opinions about their perspectives on the presidency, on Washington's administration. Padlet serves almost like a virtual discussion board where students are able to both offer opinions but also to comment on what other students have posted. And so that way they're able to interact with each other, to provide the opportunity for feedback to each other. It also gives them the opportunity to do some thinking before they post, which I think is really important. I think one of the hard things about virtual learning is capturing those moments that occur in discussion. And Padlet is a really great way for students to engage in a discussion-like experience while still at home. And then those students took those ideas and were asked to provide some hard feedback on Washington's presidency through some analysis questions, which then they completed and shared back to me using Google Classroom. So my whole classroom is set up via Google Classroom. It's a platform that I've actually used from the beginning of the school year, and the students are very comfortable with it. It's something that provides not only an opportunity for me to share information, to share content and material, but I can use it to give them immediate feedback on their work, to give them an opportunity to ask questions, and students are very comfortable in doing so. So it's pretty common for me when I use Google Classroom to have a series of conversations via the platform with students about the work, where they can not only ask me questions about just the logistics of the assignment, but also to ask questions about the content and the material itself. So it's a way we can keep the dialogue going. Something else I did is I did do a Google Meet with my students. Not all students participated, but it was a great opportunity to have some FaceTime with my students. It was great to see their faces. I miss them. I do think some of them miss school. And it was a chance for us to engage in some conversation about the work, but also to just reconnect as a class. And I think that's a really important opportunity to have in virtual learning, that you don't want to lose that community that you build as a class. And so that's a great way that we can continue to maintain that community, by using a tool like Google Meet, where we can see one another face to face and engage in conversation.
I am Abby Winnick, and I teach 4th grade at Stone Ridge. And for the first few days of virtual learning, our emphasis was on creating routine and creating a sense of calm in a very uncertain situation. Marinella Morgan and I, who is my teaching partner in the 4th grade, we made morning meeting videos. In our regular classroom, we begin every day with a morning meeting, which is the time to greet the girls, do some prayer together, do a little bit of sharing, and sort of talk about what was going to happen in the day. So we actually recorded those videos so that the girls could watch them and set the tone for their virtual work for the day. And then they really proceeded into things that they knew how to do with independence, so that they really felt confident and prepared to move forward in an environment that was something that was not usual to them. For example, the day before we left for distance learning, my girls wrote "Where I Am From" poems, which basically describe where they come from, both in a physical sense, but in a metaphorical sense. And it's a poem that acts as a Mad Lib. So it describes like where I'm from in terms of brand, or what my house looks like, things that are around me, personality traits, people, and ancestry. And I've actually taught this poem with every group of kids that I've taught since I was a baby teacher. So it was really fun to do that work together, especially when girls are going to be learning in their home environment in a way that's really different than in previous years. So we learned about some girls who have like Zara tights, and Coca-Cola versus Pepsi in their homes, for example. And the girls use tools that they knew how to use. So we use Google Classroom daily in our regular classroom. And so the girls, we taught them how to take pictures of their work and upload it, so that when they do a response that's away from the computer, they could upload it and then take a picture of it, and we could give them feedback that was direct and distinct, just like we would in the classroom in a conferring moment, be able to give them really good instruction so that the next thing that they were able to do was even more successful.
Hi, I'm Flavia Huber. I teach 6th grade environmental science in the middle school. And this is what a virtual learning day looks like for my students. They will go to Google Classroom and they'll find the day that we're on. And as always, we're going to start with opening prayer. I think it's important to keep some semblance of normality, especially for students this age group. It helps them feel more secure, knowing routine and knowing what to expect. And I think it helps them feel safe. If the adults think that everything is normal, it helps them feel safe and secure. So we'll start with opening prayer as always. And then they would move on to a warm-up activity. I've been turning my warm-up activities into Google Forms using the quiz option. I like the quiz option because it allows me to give them instantaneous feedback. So they'll tell me a little bit of information in response to a question. And once they send their responses, they'll get an automatic reply with instantaneous feedback. Then they'll turn into an instructional video. And the instructional video, I use a combination of PowerPoint and Screencastify to make. One of the things that is useful here also is that the girls get to actually see me, not just hear me. So it makes a little bit of a human connection, even though we're working from a distance.
So I'm assuming that you guys have already done the opening prayer and the warm-up, and now you're here for the instructional video. We're going to be using Google Classroom and Lesson 1.3 in the Amplify Science platform. So you're going to be flipping back and forth between those and this instructional video in order to complete the lesson.
Okay, so that's one thing. And then because our program actually does involve using a lot of online resources, so they're already used to doing this. So they're going to log in to their online platform and they'll complete a brief activity. And then again, I'm collecting data so that I can see that they understood the lab activity, and they'll wind up getting feedback on this as well. Finally, they'll have some sort of homework assignment, even though everything actually is homework while we're doing virtual learning. So as an example, rather than writing out their vocabulary terms by hand on a piece of paper, I'm having them create a set of Quizlet cards, flashcards, electronic flashcards with their vocabulary words. And then they have to connect that their set of Quizlet cards, they have to post them into our Google Classroom. And finally, they have the option to come to Science Study Hall. So I've set up a Padlet, and within the Padlet, they can ask a question. They can do it all day, throughout the day, whenever the question pops into their head. I set it up so that the girls can also respond to each other. And then my office hours, when I will pop in and make sure to respond and maybe do any follow-up questions, are from 2:30 to 3 o'clock, so the girls know that that's when they can expect their answer from me. So that's about it. That's a day in the life of a 6th grade science student during virtual learning.
I'm Jeanette Roman. I'm one of the infant teachers in the early childhood program at Stone Ridge. And one thing that we've been doing online is an online circle time. So I've recorded some circle times and sent them out to our families in the infants and toddler classes. And they've been able to watch our familiar songs and stories. And it's really helped us to feel connected. The parents are sending us videos and pictures of their kids watching circle time. And it's really given all of us a boost.
My name is Kenneth Woodard. I am a history teacher in the upper school at Stone Ridge, School of the Sacred Heart. This year I'm teaching 3 sections of Advanced Placement U.S. History. The challenge here is to continue to position the students for success on the exam in whatever form the exam ultimately will take according to the College Board. And so I'm taking advantage of the opportunity to meet with my students virtually during the scheduled class slots. And I heard almost immediately from my students that they're getting a lot of lecture. They're getting a lot of lecture. And that was my go-to, my immediate go-to. Is like, I need to explain this stuff. I need to explain this stuff. The one thing I did experiment with to therefore break up the monotony of just blah, 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 was over the course of a lesson, I directed them to a primary document and then gave them 15 minutes during the class to do a short 1-sentence analytical writing response to that document. And the challenge I faced was how to then follow up on that, share it, and discuss it, where it would be very easy in a face-to-face classroom. This was hard. And in the moment, I improvised and used the chat column in Google Hangouts. And that was okay. I like the chat column. However, for next steps, I look forward to running maybe parallel software like Padlet or some kind of whiteboard program where the students will be able to put things up, and then I can toggle to that tab and then do a presentation share. So I haven't done that yet, but that's my next experimental goal, is to come up with a more elegant way to have students in the course of a period, actually in the moment, respond to me in some form in writing in a way that I can share and look at and then comment on. And that's just been, typical of the broader challenge, just old efficiencies and things we took for granted now have to be deliberately thought through. And that has been a very interesting challenge.